Sheila, maybe the bromance is over. Doug Ford went on a bona fide rant about this. We have some video. Let's see him slamming the person that just a few months ago we couldn't get enough of. Maybe it's over.
They were on weekend getaways together.
That's right, in cottage country.
Yeah.
I didn't know, is that Ford and Carney having a dinner, or did I just tune into an episode of Heated Rivalry? Anyway, let's check out what Doug had to say.
Not too sure if President Trump wants Chinese spy vehicles coming across the border, but I'm betting the answer is no. You know, when you get on your cell phone, it's the Chinese that are going to be listening to your, and I'm not making this stuff up, they're going to be listening to your telephone conversation. I find it ironic that the Prime Minister is using a burner phone and all his staff over in China. But we're making a deal, it's Huawei 2.0, to come back into Canada, and we get nothing but potential job losses in our factories right across the board. Not too sure.
And you know what, Sheila? Doug Ford is 100% right.
Sure he is.
You know, I know the amount of Chinese EVs coming into the market this year, assuming they get their act together for this year, because I'm just wondering who the dealership network is going to be. 49,000 over the course of 5 years, it'll increase to 70,000. Of course, it'll go beyond that. But the biggest fallacy of this EV deal is when you see Carney saying this is going to lead to domestic manufacturing. That is absolutely a lie. First of all, it's not the Chinese model to set up a factory in North America to produce their stuff. They produce it in China and they export it. Secondly, even if they did set up a factory, Sheila, these EVs will not be allowed into the US. That is a fact. Yeah. How would such a factory exist? You have a massive automaking factory only for the Canadian domestic market. I can tell you, Sheila, about 90% of the vehicles manufactured in Canada go right to the US. The idea that you would have a plant, a manufacturing plant, only for Canadian consumption is not viable whatsoever. So again, I'm sorry to say it, but I got to call it like the ump. Carney lying through his teeth yet again.
Yeah, you know, as Shania Twain once sang, dance with the one that brought you, Doug. Doug Ford screwed over the Conservatives in the last election. Yep. He was all elbows up. He was fighting. You know what? He could have been in the Liberal cabinet most days. Now we just got screwed. But they did throw him a bit of a bone here. And this is sort of all fresh off the heels of that Scott Moe hostage video that we saw.
What a
that
face
announced.
say.
Oh my goodness.
When he said New World
like,
Order. What?
Oh, and I think it was Jolie smirking. Like, you know, I was talking to Lise about this over the weekend because Lise is a Sasky, so she had a unique perspective on that. And I was like, Lise, because it was very clear that Mark Carney rehearsed that in a bathroom mirror several times, right? And Jolie smirked when he said it. So she obviously knew he was going to say it too. I think they did that to embarrass Scott Moe. So that sinister phrase would alienate Scott Moe from his base because he's got to sit there with those three other yahoos. See, it's already, you can't call anybody a name day, and I did it already. He's got to sit there with those three other yahoos talking about the New World Order. And he's like, I just came here for canola tariffs. Like, what are you doing? And you could see in the comment section on Facebook under Scott Moe's announcement where, you know, some partial canola tariffs are lifted, that his base was just destroying him for even being there while he said that.
But, you know, Sheila, in fairness, what was Mark Carney thinking? Well, like, we know he's all about the New World Order. If you need proof of that, get his book, Values. But what would make him pronounce that publicly?
Because he can.
Pardon?
Because he can. It's just salt in the wound.
Because
he gets to embarrass Scott Moe.
Yeah.
And you know, anybody who mentions it's a conspiracy theorist, you know, CBC is going to run cover for him because he can. Because he can do it, because he can rub it in our faces.
But I even saw blowback in the left-wing media, Sheila. Well, not the CBC, of course.
You
that
couldn't
phrase
see
did
it
not
in the CBC at all.
But so I don't know where the political capital is here in terms of playing your cards face up in terms of this agenda. Maybe it was just a momentary lapse. Remember, it wasn't just the words; it was the way in which he said it. You know,
New world order. It was like watching wrestling in the late 90s.
I know.
But there is something in here for Doug Ford. So, and I don't know how much this will manifest, but the Chinese do want access to our minerals in this deal, and they want access to the battery production that's heavily subsidized in Canada for their vehicles. So, you know, there is a non-existent electric vehicle battery market in Canada. Maybe Doug Ford's electric vehicle battery plants will find markets elsewhere. I don't know. I'm trying to find the glass half full. Obviously, there isn't one.
Oh, and Sheila, one last epilogue on Doug Ford going anti-China, and something you will never see in the mainstream media, but I covered this last year. Why is it with our liquor monopoly in Ontario, the LCBO, we have, the last time I looked, it was more than 60 products sourced from China. Why? Why are we not, like right now, you can't get bourbon from Kentucky, you can't get California wine. Soon, you might not be able to get Crown Royal whiskey if the plant is closed next month, and it looks like that is the fate of that plant in Amherstburg. But if China is such an existential threat and Doug Ford's worried about spy phones and spy cars, why are we doing business in terms of alcohol with the People's Republic of China?
Right. And we remember that the Toronto area was the ground zero for the Chinese police stations. And
yes,
that was a huge controversy. And now we have Mark Carney talking about the RCMP collaborating with the Chinese. So I guess they don't need to have a physical footprint anymore. They could just work out of the RCMP station. Like, what is this all about? And then, you know, the Chinese media having access to our politicians, but we don't have access to those same politicians. It's insane.
It is. And Sheila, isn't it amazing what a difference 8 or 9 months make, you know, compared to the election campaign when Carney was calling out China as our biggest security threat? What happened?
An election happened. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, like,
and he won the election.
Why in God's name did I subject myself to the show theater of the Foreign Interference Commission?
Yep.
Knowing full well the outcome after sitting through the Public Order Emergency Commission, knowing the outcome of that. Why did I subject myself to any of it when nobody would take it seriously at the end anyway? Like, we did 6 weeks of that. We heard from witnesses, Canadian politicians saying they were followed, threatened, families intimidated, Chinese police stations, Chinese expats being snatched off our streets, at least 2 of them, by the way, and taken back to China. God only knows what happened to them. Mm-hmm. Besides all the terrible things that China already does to its own citizens, the Christians, the Uyghurs. What are we doing here? Except insofar as we know Chinese influence always benefits the Liberals, and quite likely Brookfield. I just haven't had them a minute today to Google Brookfield plus China, but I'll figure it out.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all-Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.